Ballerina farm, a narcissist's Stepford Devaluation. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. What is the Stepford Devaluation? Well, I have a video dedicated to the very concept, link in the video description, so I would encourage you to go and watch that. But a brief summary is that it is a form of devaluation that takes place usually in relation to the dynamic between the narcissist and the intimate partner primary source, i.e. a spouse, boyfriend, girlfriend, partner, cohabitee. Narcissists devalue in two distinct ways. You have the corrective devaluations, which are used against secondary and tertiary sources, and you have the sustained devaluation that takes place between narcissist and intimate partner primary source. The sustained devaluation is, in essence, the horror story that is often recounted by those victims of narcissists that tell you about the litany of abuses that have been directed towards them. The sustained devaluation can manifest in lots of different ways, and one of the ways that it can manifest is through what is known as the Stepford Devaluation, whereby ostensibly the primary victim is treated well. They live in a lovely house, they don't want for money, they have lovely clothing, they get to go on expensive holidays, they can buy whatever they want. I have what looks like a gilded lifestyle. However, as part of that lifestyle, they are subject to the control of the narcissist. They must attend to what the narcissist requires. They must cater for every need and whim of the narcissist at the drop of a hat. The narcissist is less likely to engage in the more obvious devaluing behaviours such as physical violence, verbal violence, circular conversations, bringing up the past, etc. Instead, the devaluation is linked to the extent of the control that whilst it's a gilded lifestyle, it's living in a gilded cage. And that the narcissist is more likely to issue devaluing behaviour through silent treatments and to infidelity, which the intimate partner primary source suspects or may not even know about, but it's taking place. The narcissist is highly unlikely to rub the primary victim's face in it. Accordingly, the victim lives what looks on the surface like an idyllic life, but it is problematic because, in actual fact, they're controlled, decisions are made for them, and alongside those devaluations, there are behaviours such as infidelity and silent treatments doled out towards them. Some of you may be familiar with a social media influencer / creator called Hannah Neeleman, who is involved in something called Ballerina farm. If you're not, I'll give you a little bit of background in relation to it. Hannah Neeleman, age 34, has become a figurehead of the traditional wife TikTok trend, and one of the most successful influencers on the internet. Under her handle at Ballerina Farm, she posts idyllic rural homemaking content from a 328-acre Utah farm. She lives there with her 35-year-old husband, Daniel Neeleman. He is heir to a JetBlue fortune worth over $400 million. She has 9.3 million followers on Instagram, 8.5 million on TikTok, and 1.6 million on YouTube. The ex-Juilliard-trained ballerina and current reigning beauty pageant queen gave birth to her 8th child this year. She went from social media success to face of Tradwive fame after winning Mrs. World only 2 weeks after giving birth. Then, on the July 20th, she went even more viral after a profile of her was published in the Times newspaper. In it, journalist Megan Agnew recounted a day spent attempting to interview Neeleman while in the presence of the influencer's 8 children and husband. Thus, Neeleman accords with this concept of a Tradwife. What's that? Well, The term denotes a style of influencer and woman who follows values similar to those of, basically, people's grandmothers. These values are also espoused by the Mormon faith, to which many, including Neeleman, belong. Tradwives restrict their work to the home, are subservient to their husbands, and focus on having and raising children. The only difference? They document all of this on social media. Unsurprisingly, tradwives are contentious figures in feminist discourse. Some argue they're the ultimate example of choice feminism. Why should a mother's work be valued less than a corporate lawyer's? Others say they are dangerous figures who want to trick women back into the kitchen. Many assume that they're in on the bit. After all, traditional wives like Hannah Neeleman and Nara Smith make more money with their millions of social views through sponsorship deals, affiliate programs, and TikTok's creator fund than many corporate lawyers. Surely, then, they're social media masterminds laughing all the way to the bank. Thus, Hannah Neeleman, as this social media superstar, espouses the tradwife tradition. By being subservient to her husband, this does smack of being under control. Naturally, the culture associated with Mormonism also panders to that concept of control by the male over the subservient female. That isn't to say that all that operate within that dynamic are narcissist and victim, but certainly it's going to attract narcissists to it because it is an easy way of affording control. As a consequence of the interview, a number of matters arose which have generated what can be clearly seen as indicators of a narcissistic dynamic, which might support the fact that Hannah Neeleman is an unwitting victim of a narcissist. The interview explained that she doesn't actually cope with the lifestyle that well. Her husband explained in the interview that she is often so sick with exhaustion that she doesn't get out of bed for a week. It's not made clear who deals with the child rearing when she's unable to do it herself, whether her husband does it or other family members do it, or whether there is some kind of help provided to enable the domestic bliss to continue. It was also apparent from the interview that the journalist was not able to speak to Neeleman alone. Agnew said that she's accustomed to navigating steely-eyed publicists when interviewing high-profile celebrities, but she said she was unprepared for the challenges of interviewing Neeleman. She said that she was up against an army of toddlers who all wanted their mum and a husband who thinks he knows better. That is a narcissistic indicator of grandiosity, of believing that he knows best. The journalist pointed out that Hannah Neeleman was routinely interrupted, corrected, and was answered for by her husband. Interrupting in this way and answering on her behalf shows a sense of entitlement and a lack of boundary recognition. The interview also revealed that Hannah and Daniel Neeleman were introduced by friends at a basketball game, but Hannah was not interested in dating Daniel. She had her sights set on moving to and living in New York. Neeleman mentioned that she was flying from Salt Lake City to New York to attend Juilliard. He then pulled strings at his father's airline entitlement to get a seat next to her, lack of boundary recognition, pretending it was then a coincidence, lie. Now, on the face of it, some people would think, oh, how romantic. You are so interested in this lady that you've pulled strings to get a seat next to her so that you can talk to her. But in actual fact, given the fact that she'd already rebuffed him by explaining she wasn't interested in dating, this shows a lack of an ability to accept being turned down, denoting a sense of entitlement. It shows a lack of boundary recognition by deeming that it's appropriate to have a seat next to her, and that she wanted to, and it shows a sense of entitlement to think that she would still want to continue to talk to him. Many people on TikTok accused Daniel Neeleman of leveraging his privilege and being creepy, and it's understandable why they would say such a thing, as it does stand out as being rather unusual behaviour and is a clear narcissistic indicator. Neeleman had saved her own money to enrol herself in Juilliard. She explained, "I was going to be a ballerina. I was a good ballerina." But when she started dating Daniel Neeleman, he was insistent that their waiting until she finished school before marrying was not going to work. Prescriptive behaviour, sense of entitlement, lack of emotional empathy, lack of accountability. Instead of waiting the 12 months Hannah wanted, they were married within 3 months of dating. She was pregnant at 6 months, cutting short her ballet career. The speed at which they married and had children, whilst that might fit with the Mormon culture, is also indicative of the behaviour of a narcissist, utilising the tools of marriage and pregnancy to get somebody under control and into the relationship as quickly as possible. Like many influencers, Hannah Neeleman keeps discussions of religion and politics out of her feed. After all, her followers want to see her making lavender jelly and not sounding off on presidential campaigns. Whilst, like many traditional wives, she practiced Mormonism, many readers were taken aback to discover that no birth control is used at all, and all of their 8 pregnancies have been unplanned. Hannah Neeleman claimed she asked God, "Is it time to bring another one to Earth?" and says she's never told, and he's never told her no. Whilst this is a choice, one suspects, of course, that this is being imposed upon her, which is taking choice away from her in relation to the issue of having children. This is demonstrative again of a sense of entitlement. Neeleman has given birth to 6 of her 8 children at home, without pain relief. She told the journalist this was a personal preference, but in the article the journalist said that when her husband left the room to take a call, Hannah then added that she didn't take the pain relief when she had her daughter Martha. She explained, "I was 2 weeks overdue and she was £10 and Daniel wasn't with me." Neeleman doesn't say that she would not have taken pain relief had her husband been with her. She said that it was an amazing experience having pain relief. The fact is that it would appear that the decision not to have pain relief isn't hers and is being imposed on her by her husband. Thus, he is controlling her, having no emotional empathy for her as a consequence of the pain of childbirth. And note that when he wasn't there, she opted for childbirth. Furthermore, she couldn't talk about it in front of him, but she wanted the journalist to know about it. Also, she must have known that when she made that disclosure, that the journalist would mention it in the interview. So it seems to me that Hannah Neeleman wanted the world to know that in actual fact, that she's not the one calling the shots in relation to pain control and pain relief, but rather it's her husband. And she was prepared to deal with the ramifications of the disclosure that she made to the journalist. Whilst at the time she did so out of earshot of her husband, she must have known that it would come to his attention because the journalist would mention it. But she deemed, to my mind, that it would be appropriate to make that disclosure because she wants the world to know that the decision in relation to pain relief is not her own. That might perhaps be viewed as some form of cry for help. Interestingly, Neeleman, despite her wealth and popularity, seems far from the reigning queen of TikTok at home. Her sequin gowns from pageant wins have been moved from her cupboard to the garage to make room for the children's paraphernalia. Meanwhile, the small barn she wanted to convert into a ballet studio has become a kid's schoolroom. Her desires, her dreams appear to be trampled in relation to the needs of other people. That is demonstrative of her giving nature. It also might be demonstrative of the fact that what her needs and requirements are not taken into account by her husband. A particular video that appeared on TikTok in relation to a gift that she was provided with also has proven to be rather insightful. TikTokers dug up an old video of Hannah Neeleman being presented with a lackluster, unwrapped birthday gift by her husband. This has now gone viral in the wake of the article. In the video, she asks excitedly whether the plain brown box is a ticket to Greece. As she rips open the cardboard, she says, hopefully, a hat to wear in Greece. Instead, it's a makeshift apron with several small pockets that can be used to collect chicken eggs. Daniel Neeleman, in the video, seems pleased with himself and a bit amused, saying, "You're welcome," to a visibly disappointed Neeleman. Many individuals have agreed that it was a woeful gift. As you know from my work, the narcissist utilizes poor gift-giving as a means to devalue the victim. Watch my video, The Narcissist and Gifts, to understand more. And here, the failure to provide her with a suitable and caring gift is indicative of a lack of emotional empathy, a lack of accountability, a sense of entitlement, and it is a devaluing act. The journalist followed up her article with some reflection on the time that she spent on Ballerina Farm. She wrote, "In the week since we published the interview, we've had an enormous and impassioned response, a whirl of arguments and opinions whipping up speed on social media." She confirmed that Neeleman had somewhere along the line become an avatar through which people hotly debate motherhood, womanhood, and the freedom to choose either. The most obvious takeaway seems to be that for women, there is rarely an escape from work that feels impossible, whether it's raising sourdough, responding to emails, or sweating at the gym 3.5 times a week because a voice in their head tells them it'll be summer soon, and they should be doing all three while juggling an unequal distribution of childcare duties. The fact is that what doesn't appear to have been spoken about is that the interview and the material that has been produced for this Ballerina Farm hints very heavily at a narcissistic dynamic, that a narcissist ensnared and controls his wife and does so through what appears to be a Stepford devaluation. There are many indicators that support that is what is going on. Are you familiar with Ballerina Farm? Have you read the interview? What are your thoughts in relation to this dynamic? Do you think it's simply somebody who has adopted the Tradwive lifestyle and her husband takes advantage of that and it's linked to their Mormonism? Or do you think there is something deeper? Do you think that it does demonstrate the dynamic between narcissist and victim? As I pointed out, there are so many narcissistic indicators. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.